Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to the Borosil Limited Q2 FY22 earnings conference call hosted by Edelweiss Wealth Management. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode. There will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference, please signal an operator by pressing star and then 0 on your touchtone telephone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Praveen Sahay from Edelweiss Wealth Management. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining to the earnings call of Borosil Limited on behalf of Edelweiss Wealth. I would like to welcome management team of Borosil to discuss the result and the outlook. We have with us Mr. Shreevar Kheruka, Vice Chairman, Managing Director and CEO of the company, Mr. Rajesh Kumar Chaudhary, Whole-Time Director, Mr. Anand Sultania, CFO, and Mr. Swadhin Padia, General Manager, Finance. I would now request Mr. Kheruka for his opening remark, post which we can open the floor for Q&A. Over to you, Mr. Kheruka.
So thank you, Praveen and Edelweiss, for hosting this call. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be interacting with you again. Borosil Limited's board approved the company's financial results for Q2 and the first half of FY22 on November 12, 2021. Our results and an updated presentation have been sent to the stock exchanges and have also been uploaded on the company's website. Let me begin with an overview of our business performance during the first half of FY22. After a severe second wave of COVID-19 in some parts of the country during the first quarter, caseloads during the second quarter was significantly lower. The pace of vaccination has accelerated, and over 75% of the population has received at least one dose of the COVID vaccine, and the total number of doses administered have recently crossed 110 crores. While it is obviously prudent to continue to exercise caution, lockdown restrictions have been eased, and there is a rise in mobility and a return of a degree of confidence and demand. Borosil's consolidated revenue from operations during the second quarter of this financial year was INR 221.83 crores, which is a growth of 59% over Q2 FY21. This is off a low base resulting from the disruption of the first lockdown last year. This QOQ growth rate needs to be viewed in the context of the exceptional circumstances that prevailed during the same period last year. While discussing other growth rates, I would refer to the performance during the half year instead of the quarter. The consolidated revenue from operations during half year FY22 was INR 359.72 crores, a growth of 84% over the first half of 21. For convenience of investors, we have in our presentation, we have also added the performance of the same of Q2 of FY20 as well as the first half of FY20 to show what was the comparison of this year's results with the non-COVID FY20 period. Borosil's consumerware business, comprising glassware products and non-products under the brand Borosil, and its opalware range under the brand Lara, recorded net sales of INR 240.9 crores as compared to INR 114.8 crores. This revenue of 240.9 crores is higher than the pre-COVID period of H1 FY20 by 16%. Sales of glassware products under Borosil during H1 FY22 were INR 63.08 crores, a growth of about 63% over H1 FY21. The sales of consumer glassware products, however, have not yet caught up with pre-COVID levels. Educational institutes have remained closed with all classes moving online. Most workplaces are still operating at lower than normal capacities, with companies adopting a hybrid model of work from home as well as the office. Consequently, some of our product lines, such as glass lunch boxes, are still facing subdued demand. However, as I mentioned during the last call, we do not believe there are any long-term structural shifts, and in some categories of discretionary spend, demand is taking a little longer to return to full strength. Borosil's non-glassware products, comprising primarily domestic kitchen appliances, the Hydra range of bottles, and steel Serve Fresh products, recorded sales of INR 78.4 crores during the first half of FY22. That's a growth of 78% over the first half of last year. Sales in this segment were higher than H1 FY20 by 68%. This segment of our portfolio is benefiting from certain long-term behavioral changes among consumers, a higher frequency of in-home cooking, has facilitated a higher demand for kitchen appliances as the consumers look for greater convenience and aids to the process of preparing meals. Borosil had begun prototyping and seeding the domestic kitchen small appliance market a few years ago. Our products including OTGs, blenders, juicers, mixer grinders, cookers, toasters, etc. have met with a very good customer response. More recently, we introduced a stainless steel cookware range, including pressure cookers, casseroles, pans, kadhais, to expand our bouquet of offering to the consumer. During the half year ended September 2021, non-glassware products comprised 55.4% of consumer product sales. This is the Borosil brand sale and excludes opalware sales. We are slowly but surely taking the Borosil brand beyond glassware products to a broader based brand which encompasses everyday cooking, storage, and serving. Borosil's opalware brand Lara recorded net sales of INR 99.4 crores during the first half of this year 22, which is more than tripling its sales from last year, although last year again was not a very comparable period. Lara, which drives a fair proportion of its sales through gifting, was more severely impacted during FY21 owing to the social distancing restrictions on celebratory gatherings. The company has made a concerted effort to reduce Lara's dependence on gifting. Sales during H1 FY22 exceeded that in the corresponding pre-COVID period of H1 FY20 by about 34%. Once again, increase in in-home dining, including entertainment at home, is likely to remain a long-term behavioral shift. Lara's opalware products are ideally suited for frequent or daily usage, while at the same time looking elegant for serving guests in. Moreover, it compares favorably on price with substitute categories, providing it with a significant potential for penetration into Indian homes. Coming to the scientific product division, the net sales during H1 FY22 were INR 118.84 crores, which is a growth of 47% over H1 FY21. During H1 FY22, the core laboratory glass products registered sales of INR 65.2 crores, a growth of 35% over H1 FY21. As I indicated during the last quarter, this vertical in our business was facing weak demand in the context of educational institutions remaining shut and government-funded labs constraints. These challenges notwithstanding, the company has seen a steady demand from its clients in the pharmaceutical as well as other industries. Borosil's lab instrumentation business under the brand LabQuest has been showing steady growth. Having introduced the initial products and gained customer confidence, we have begun to gradually expand our range of offerings. These are developed by our wholly owned subsidiary, Borosil Technologies, and sales, while small during the first half of the year of INR 9.2 crores, has registered a growth of 61% over the same period last year. Borosil's vials and ampules brand of pharma packaging products, that's Glasspack, registered sales of INR 44.4 crores, a growth of 67% over H1 FY21. Currently, we have utilized about 70% of our capacity and are well placed to service higher demand. We will also be doing more capex in this vertical. During H1 FY22, the operating EBITDA before exceptional items was INR 71.6 crores, translating into an EBITDA margin of just about 20%. During the corresponding period in the previous year, the company had incurred an operating EBITDA profit before exceptional items of only INR 21.6 crores, owing to the negative impact of COVID-related lockdowns and customer cutbacks on discretionary spends. The improved performance this year has brought us closer to a normalized operating profitability, and the profit before tax and exceptional items during the first half of this year, 22, stood at INR 59.4 crores, which is about 16.5% of the revenue. The company's financial results for the period include two exceptional items. We have provided for losses incurred on account of a fire at a warehouse in Bharuch on April 1st of this year, of April 1st, 2021. And we also had a waterlogging incident at a warehouse in Bhiwandi. These premises are insured and claims have been raised. The provisions made in the book is to the extent of the difference between the claims raised and those expected to be settled by the insurance company, aggregating INR 6.5 crores. We believe most of this will also be settled by the insurance company upon completion of their due process. Amendment in the provisions of the Finance Act 2021 related to depreciation on goodwill has resulted in a deferred tax expense of INR 11.7 crores during H1 FY22. The company reported a profit after tax of INR 25.4 crores during H1 FY22. Had it not been for the two exceptional items, the profit after tax would have been more. As of September 30th, 2021, the company had net cash of about INR 224 crores. More than 80% of the same is invested in high credit quality secured debt instruments. The company has been liquidating the legacy investments in real estate. The overall real estate fund exposure now stands at only about 10% of the total investments. The company believes that it can deploy the cash in the business for efficient growth, both organically as well as for strategic M&A. During H1 FY22, the company has generated a consolidated operating profit of rupees 70 crores, out of which rupees 21.5 crores is invested in inventory, rupees 32 odd crores in receivables, and rupees 20 crores is claims receivable from the insurance company, against which INR 14.5 crores has already been received in the month of October 2021. The increase in receivables is in line with higher sales. The increase in inventory was conscious call taken by the company in view of the environment of uncertainty due to the global supply chain issues that everybody is facing. Lead time for deliveries has got elongated, and it was considered prudent to increase the safety stock, especially for the festive season. Moreover, once the company transitions to a higher proportion of domestic production and sourcing, we expect to be able to function with leaner inventory levels. The operating capital employed in the business was about INR 499 crores, which includes the deferred tax liability of INR 28 crores. This comprised of about 289 crores in consumer products and 210 crores in scientific products division. With an operational EBIT, that is before investment income, earning of INR 54.5 crores during H1 FY22, it translates into an annualized operating ROCE of about 22%. We continue to be mindful of improving our return on capital employed through gaining operating leverage on the deployed capital, as well as by improving our margins. As we look into the future, we see an opportunity to grow Borosil's business at a CAGR of 15 to 20%. The consumer products business is expected to grow faster. Apart from continuing to build out the non-glassware product line, we will also leverage our core strength in glassware and opalware to make them daily use household essentials for serving and storage. In the scientific product business, we also expect to have a reasonable growth given the addition of new product lines for instrumentation under LabQuest, as well as the vials and ampoules business under Klasspack. These growth plans would require to be supported by investments in capital expenditure. During the previous quarter, I shared with you the decision of our board to sanction 2 expansion projects. The first is to expand the capacity for opalware production in Jaipur from 42 tons per day to 84 tons per day. This would entail an investment of about INR 175 crores. Production from the expanded capacity is expected to commence sometime in Q2 FY23 and cater to Lara's requirements over the next 3 years or so. The second was to create a capacity for borosilicate glass products in India, entailing an investment of about INR 75 crores, also in Jaipur. This project is expected to be completed by Q4 FY23. It too can service the company's requirement for another 3 years. Further, in addition to these 2 investments, the board has now approved an upstream project for the manufacturing of glass tubing. The company currently sources its tubing predominantly from overseas countries. Given the increased uncertainty in global supply chains as well as increased costs, the company has decided to reduce its dependence on imports by setting up a borosilicate 3.3 expansion tubing furnace with a capacity of between 20 and 24 metric tons per day at its facility in Bharuch in Gujarat. The project is expected to cost about INR 100 crores and is likely to be commissioned by March 2023. We will also be undertaking expansion of our capacity of vials and ampoules under Klasspack, entailing a capex of about INR 75 crores over the next 3 years. At an aggregate level, we expect to invest about INR 600 crores over the next 3 to 4 years towards building adequate capacity to support the company's growth, de-risk its supply chain, and upgrade the plant and IT infrastructure of the company. The anticipated capital expenditure is expected to be funded through a combination of internal accruals, debt, and some liquidation of non-core assets. Once operations from these investments are fully on stream, the company expects to be able to generate an ROCE in the mid-20s by FY25. We are very optimistic about the future of the business. More recently, of course, all of us have been through challenging times since the Q4 of FY20 owing to COVID. As of this moment, the COVID threat in India has subsided to a fair extent, and one hopes that we do not suffer another wave. With a return to normalcy, we expect to see strong demand in our business segments, especially for the new items we have introduced in both consumer and scientific products, where penetration is still low and Borosil can drive market expansion where it is a leader and participate in market growth in other categories. So with that, I conclude my opening remarks, and I would like to throw open the floor to questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Anyone who has a question may press star and 1. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. Our first question is from the line of Hitesh from Aksa Capital Advisors. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity and congratulations for the good performance. Mr. Shrivar, I just wanted to understand the festive buying. Have we got the benefit of the festive buying in Q2, or could we see some of it in Q3 as well?
So as you know, Diwali was early November.
Right.
So October, 30 days before Diwali is typically the highest percentage of sales. So I would say most of the festive buying would have happened in October, and I mean you would have something in September, but a lot of that benefit would come through in Q3.
Sure, got it. Would you mind telling what is the advertisement expense that we incurred in this quarter, Q2?
Frankly, I'm not exactly sure of the number. I can come back to you. Okay.
And just a last question from my side. This warehouse that we set up in Gujarat, I think about 65 crores that we had invested, we had anticipated about 100 to 150 bits of cost saving from the consolidation of the warehouses and also on the freight side. But when I look at your annual numbers, right, the FY20 and FY21, your warehousing expenses is the same, just 4.5 crores. And even your freight cost is not anything different, despite having a lower scale. So I wanted to understand, has there anything that has changed, and if or what could be the reason for this, the benefit not coming to us in FY21 at least?
See, firstly, just to correct you, the warehouse was set up in Jaipur and not in Gujarat. Okay, this is for Lara. So you have to compare the warehouse. The margins for the warehousing was always in connection with the Lara, and if you see Lara margins, they have increased over the last 2 years, and warehousing has had a role to play in that improvement in Lara margins, because earlier, like I mentioned, we had many external warehouses where we'd have to also shuttle our trucks between the warehouses to service even one customer, because different products and different warehouses, and we typically get orders for a mix of products. So we have seen improvements in Lara margins. Some of it is coming from obviously the operational leverage, and some of it is coming from this warehouse expense, or rather the centralized warehouse. The second point is that the expense of the warehouse was not 65 crores at all. It was somewhere in the 30 to 35 crore range, if I remember correctly, which is and this warehouse will also suffice to a large extent for our Opal Glass 2 OG2 furnace of the 175 crore capex, because the warehouse will expand, meaning we had built it already, factoring the new capacity coming in. Therefore, for the OG2 furnace, we don't need a separate warehouse. It'll be utilizing the same space in the existing location. So there have been many benefits of that particular project, and those are reflecting more in the Lara numbers than in Borosil numbers. Moreover, another point is that if you look at warehousing and freight, in general, FY21 is was a very challenging year to compare any number because of the low, sales. So warehousing costs in many cases typically tend to be fixed, and if your sales are low, then as a percentage the costs go up. So that's another aspect one must consider. And finally, if you look at diesel, coming to freight, if you look at diesel costs, everybody reads in the newspaper every day the diesel prices are increasing. So while it may have while there have been savings on freight as well, I'm talking now even Borosil, the issue is that the costs themselves have gone up because of the increase of diesel prices. So those are all impacts which the price inflation of various inputs have impacted all companies and including us as well. But I would still say that we have made pretty good savings on the supply chain points, both warehousing and freight, and they will reflect when the sales get normalized over the next few periods.
Sure. Okay, sure. Thanks.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Manav Vijay from Deep Financial. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much, sir, for the opportunity. Sir, regarding the expansion that you have announced of the borosilicate glass, so last quarter also you had announced one expansion of borosilicate. So, and you had mentioned that this product will basically be a backward integration for your consumer wear glass division. Now, here you are saying that this new expansion will be actually an upward integration. So if you can explain the difference between both the expansions, sir?
Yeah. Okay. So firstly, both are backward integration. So maybe the word has been confusing. So we both are backward integrations. Okay. In the case of the one which we are doing in Jaipur, the 75 crore capex for borosilicate, those are for borosilicate press items. These are items like mixing bowls or our lunch boxes, which we make and supply under the Borosil brand for the consumer. What we have just announced in this particular board meeting, is a 100 crore capex, which is for borosilicate tubing. The tubing is used for both scientific and consumer, but the main use in terms of the 3.3 expansion is for the scientific products. And therefore, this is also a backward integration only in the sense that we are products today from, we are importing these products or this tubing, and now we are going to make in India these products. So these are glass tubes. And the first one we had announced was glass press items. So they're different products altogether.
Sure. This is helpful, sir. So my second question is that of all the work that you did in last 2-3 years regarding putting up that warehouse in Jaipur, then also that expansion, changing the furnace for Lara, and then also changing the packaging for Lara as well. So now the benefit or the synergies of all those efforts are now getting reflected in the margins that you have delivered in this quarter, or you believe that you still have further scope, considering that in H2 you will have higher sales because of festivity and everything, so you will have operating leverage, and on top of that, the efforts made by the company in last 2 years will can actually give you much better margins than what you have done in Q2?
Yeah. So look, frankly, again, even if you look at this year H1, okay, April and May were quite tough months because of COVID. I mean, we were right in the middle of the worst, of COVID in India. So there were many lockdowns again. So I cannot say that even the first half of the year, in terms from a sales point of view, has been at a normalized kind of level. And even that's on the consumer side. Even on the scientific side, as I already mentioned in the opening remarks, schools, colleges still remain closed, and across, saying broadly, and even government institutes the funding is still, the taps are not yet open for funding. So on both our consumer and scientific divisions, we expect that we don't believe that H1 was a normalized level. Like you rightly pointed, H2 is something which is got more festive kind of impact. And to answer your original question about the operating leverage, we still believe we can get some more operating leverage than what is there today. Okay, and that will come on the back of higher sales when the things come back to normalization. And I think I've also indicated in the opening remarks that our target for the ROCE is higher than what we have at the moment. So we hope to get to the mid-20s ROCE. That's something that we would strive for. Right now it's slightly lower than that.
Sure. Now, sir, apart from the 3 expansions, you have also now talked about in your opening remark about the expansion even in the glass pack of around 70 crores over next 2 to 3 years. If you can expand on that as well, sir.
Yeah, you see, we are when we took over Glasspack, the revenues of that business was roughly 30 crores. I'm talking about in year 16-17. In this year and a half, in the first half itself, we are closer to 50 crores. Okay, and we will soon be running out of typically the operating, or let's call it the capacity utilization in that kind of business. Once you hit 80%, then it becomes difficult you can't really hit 100% of capacity utilization because you have to keep changing your products. Your product mix is always evolving. So now, since we are operating at 70% plus, and we expect that once you hit 80%, then it becomes challenging to increase sales. We have to put up more lines to cater to the market. And this is really the impact. The capex we're going to do is to add more lines of the same products, both ampoules and vials, in order to cater to the expanding needs of that market. And we have added quite a few very good, let's call them top class pharma customers over the last 6 months to a year. And in general, our market share or our share of their wallet is increasing. So we are quite, bullish on that business and the growth prospects in that business. So that's really the background on which we are trying to grow. So this is not any new product. It's basically expanding capacity of the existing products itself.
Sure. So one last question from me. Normally, so you used to talk about a growth of around 10 to 12% in your scientific wear division. Now, for the first time, we've increased that guidance to around 15%. So this is majorly due to the class pack, or you believe that even in the scientific labware, you will have a higher growth rate of high single digit than what you were earlier anticipating?
Yeah. So look, as far as scientific, the scientific is definitely driven a lot by class pack as far as the growth rates are concerned. But even the instrumentation business is picking up. Those are new products we have developed. Again, it's a low base, so it will take time for the growth to reflect in the absolute growth rate of the division. But I do very much anticipate that the next 2-3 years with higher, what we hope is pharma, drug discovery on the back of COVID, higher production of various vaccines and various other drugs. I do believe that there is a upside possible on that the earlier kind of guidance of 10-12%.
Sure. Thank you and all the best, sir. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. We'll take a next question from the line of Keval Ashar from DSP Investment Managers. Please go ahead.
Congratulations, Shreevar sir and team for good set of numbers. So I had a few questions. So first is, how do you see the opalware industry playing out in coming years, since our competitor is also expanding their capacities? And how much revenues can we do in opalware post expansion?
So you're right. Our competitors are also expanding in opal. The industry is taking away, or rather is growing on the back of two trends. Let's call them larger trends. One trend is the growth in home dining, which already was discussed, and that itself is giving people the reason to buy more, better china or better dinnerware, let's call it. The second is it's also capturing share of competitive market segments like melamine or bone china or plastic, okay, or steel. So opalware is not only growing organically because of the growth of the market, it's also growing as a shift or a shift in consumer preferences towards this particular material. So I see that the market should be able to absorb this extra capacity coming in, and that's the reason we're putting it up. Otherwise, we would not do it. And that's the base case, kind of thesis. As far as so we are just doing simple math. We did about 100 crores in the first half of the year. If you double it, we can do 200 crores. That's from one furnace, and we are doubling our capacity from 42 to 84 tons per day. So therefore, the 200 crores could become 400 crores. That's basic math. Obviously, it depends on capacity utilization of the second furnace, how quickly we can ramp up, to utilizing the full capacity. All those are questions which, frankly, I don't know the answer to. But directionally, say in the next 3 years, can we become a 400 crore, opal glass business? I do believe that's possible, and that's the reason we are putting the capex.
Oh, great to know that, sir. One more question is that can you please throw some light on Klasspack in terms of revenues that we can do in peak utilization? What would be the margins that we can clock in, and what is the size of opportunity for us in this pharma packaging segment?
Yeah. So if you go to, I think there was one of the slides we have put up in pharma packaging, what is the market size? We believe it's north of 1,000 crores based on our internal estimate, okay? And the market is growing also at 10-12%. And we expect that we should at least have double-digit market share, maybe kind of teens market share in this business over the next couple of years. So, this business can grow, at least 15-20% compounded. That should be our goal over the next few years. If we do better, maybe slightly better than that even. But that's really the expectation. As far as margin profile is concerned, I would just say that we don't share the breakup of the margin within the product categories, just as a policy. But going forward, I do expect. We have already seen an improvement in Klasspack margins because of the operating leverage we have got this year, and that is likely to continue. And we could probably even improve it by a few percentage points over and above the current performance.
Okay, got it. And last question is that we are setting up a borosilicate glass facility for 75 crores. So other than securing a sustainable supply, how much will it improve our operating margins? If you can give us a number. Hello, am I audible?
Ladies and gentlemen, it looks like Mr. Kheruka's line has disconnected from the call. We request you to please remain connected while we get the connection re-established. Please do not disconnect your lines. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we request you to please remain connected while we rejoin Mr. Kheruka's connection. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the line for Mr. Kheruka connected.
Yes. Yeah, sorry, I got dropped off.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah. Can you hear me? Sorry, I got dropped off for a moment.
Yeah, it's audible. You're audible.
So look, it's hard to predict the margins at the moment. The reason is that our main goal, as we have again stated, is to make glass a everyday use brand. Glass a everyday use product, and Borosil everyday use brand. And in order to do that, you have to give some benefit to the customer. You make the switch with plastic and steel to glass. So in the short run, that may have some cost in terms of giving a beneficial pricing to the end customer. And the idea is how it was done in Opal also. The pricing was very attractive to make people switch. So in the same way, for the borosilicate product, we may have to, once we have our production, in order to sell the volumes, we may need to have a lower price point, which makes it very attractive for the average end customer to try out glass. Once that happens, then glass, we believe, is such a better product to serve in, to store in. People will get hooked onto that particular product. So in the short run, I would not say that we can improve our margins, but we can definitely improve our revenues because we will be selling much more quantity than what we have. We play a long-term game. We are not in this for a year or two. We're looking at the next 10 years. And if I look at the next 10-year horizon, I believe that India will require not one, but maybe 3 or 4 furnaces of borosilicate production. So the short run is not so important. The margin profile, whether it remains the same or is up or down a little bit, it doesn't really bother me. The main thing is, can I get my consumer hooked on to using glass, which we believe is a much better.
Right. Sure. Thank you so much, and I'll get back in the queue.
Yeah.
Thank you. A reminder to our participants, if you wish to ask a question, you may press star and 1. Our next question is from the line of Dhruv Kashyap, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Good afternoon, Shrivar. And first of all, many thanks and congratulations to both you and Senior Mr. Kheruka for the excellent stewardship that you've been providing over the last few years and decades to both the Borosil Group companies.
Thank you.
I had 2 questions, Shrivar. The first one is on the SIP division. Given that over the years you've added so many product categories and sort of subcategories within that, in terms of LabQuest and precision lab equipment and vials and ampules and tubes, etc. My understanding is that we are broadly heading towards about a 200-250 crore kind of annual turnover in this segment. Would it be fair to say that this is the segment that could really lead the export growth for the overall company?
Yes, in a sense, the export growth of scientific products will be larger than the export growth of the consumer products. The reason is that there is a fairly large arbitrage between our cost of production and the cost of production of these same products in the Western world. And we are much, much cheaper, and our quality is absolutely identical or comparable to the quality of what you get for all these products in the Western world. So it is just not a very far say that this could lead to a large export growth and a large absolute value of export business. So I think your kind of estimation is correct. On the consumer side, whatever products we make, there are many companies. There's a lot of automation in that, as well as many companies across the world already have strong brands and local presence of this production. So while exports can happen, the margins of exports are lower than selling domestically, and therefore it makes sense to focus more on the domestic market. Export is, traditionally used as a filler on the consumer side to fill capacity whenever there is a shortage in demand. So that's really the way that we have been approaching the business. In the future, as our brand grows, we could maybe look at brand building on the consumer side in exports in adjacent geographies in Southeast Asia, for example. But that's a very long-term story. Just one thing I'd like to correct you. If you look at the scientific sales of the company, in the first half of the year itself, we have done about 120 crores. So at the end of the year, it should definitely be more than 240. So that's something just to factor. Since you mentioned 200 crores at the beginning, I just thought I'd clarify that point.
Perfect. So I'd actually said 250, but you're right. I mean, if you look at a very sort of big, hairy, audacious goal, it wouldn't be outlandish to say that we could look at 500 crores in the next 3, 4, 5 years between both domestic and international exports in this division.
Yeah, 400-500 crores, I think we should look at least, especially with this tubing furnace coming, we should have, more benefits from that as well. So yes, I do believe 15% CAGR is something that we should strive to kind of, achieve.
My second and last question, Shrivar, was on the consumer part of the business. Help me understand your vision and your team's vision on this particular part of the business. What I see when I see Borosil in the marketplace, both sort of online and offline, is that now you're participating in almost all of the major product segments or categories in, let's say, kitchen appliances or consumer small ticket appliances. So are you looking at strengthening your play across, or are you, for example, let's say a TTK Prestige with built a 15,000 crore market cap or 12,000 crore market cap company predominantly on the back of pressure cookers, cookware and stove tops, or a Hawkins which is built it predominantly on pressure cookers and cookware. How are you seeing it play out? I mean, are you going to put your sort of mind and advertising dollar behind all these 100 subcategories of kitchen appliances, or are you really looking at picking 2, 3 big battles and adding all your alpha or delta from there? Thanks.
Okay, so see, the proof of putting dollars in the eating at the moment where we are putting our capex is for the glassware, okay? Because we are adding, our second Opal glass furnace, which is, like I already said, 175 crores, and then the first borosilicate pressing furnace, which is 75 crores. So a lot of our capex is going towards growing the glassware business, because that's where we feel we have a substantial, differentiation in the market. And that's where we'll see also a lot of growth coming. So that's, where the capital is going to go is towards glassware, and that's announced as well. As far as the revenue or the sales is concerned, the way we are set up is we have product management teams which have a responsibility for different products that we sell. So all the product ranges do something for us, and all put together gives us a very strong market presence. So it's improper to think that because we are doing glassware, we'll not focus on others, because the others don't require much capital. It's more a branding, a marketing kind of initiative, as well as a design initiative. We are very strong with design, and we have a strong product designers in-house. So, but we source these products. We don't make them at all. So I think these products work more in conjunction with each other, and I would not say that the right way to think is that we are going to do one at the expense of the other. Definitely capex will be on the glassware side, but the operations are run very independently. The product management is totally separate. The entire front end, when you go to the end customer, the retailer, you have to push what is needed for the retailer, and the other stuff gets sold alongside it. So I'll give you an example even of COVID. During COVID, glassware was not selling much because of people were not moving out of home. But appliances sold a lot. So appliances, really having that appliances in the range helped us even sell glassware. And so the market keeps evolving and changing, and I think all of our product categories are important. So we are not going to give stepmotherly treatment to anyone. But yes, capital expenditure will be more on the glassware side.
Thanks, Shrivar. And lastly, as I've always maintained, that the design ethos of Borosil is as comparable to Apple, which I consider the best design company in the world, and your design team is really doing a fantabulous job in the kind of design ethos that you sort of create for Borosil. So keep it up, and all the very best. Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take our next question from the line of Akhil Parekh from Elara Capital. Please go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity. Shiva, my first question is on the opalware category. If I look at the presentation of last quarter, it says the category size was 500 crore, and that's broadly the size which our competitor has also been kind of alluding to. But in current presentation of second quarter, we see that the category size is 900 crore. So, where the sudden expansion in the category has happened on a quarter-on-quarter basis, and is it mainly because we are seeing a significant structural changes in categories like melamine and bone china, which to a large extent were import dependent from China?
Yeah, that's a good. I think you've pointed out an important point. You see, firstly, these category sizes are internal estimates, and they are our own assumption of what's happening. So it's while last quarter, whether it was 500 and suddenly we've not had 400 crore growth in one quarter. But when new information comes to light, then we have to adapt our own understanding and change the numbers. So I cannot say that it's doubled in the last 3 months. But if we look at what the current situation is, that our estimate of 900 crores is, we believe, fairly accurate. Now coming to what is the reason for this shift? Yes, I do believe that there's as I mentioned earlier as well, the opal is taking share away from other categories such as melamine and bone china, and that's because of the inherent features of the product which make it microwavable, which is light, it looks good, it's vegetarian. These are all very value-added features of the product which other categories may or may not have, and therefore from a consumer point of view also, it's a good switch, or it's an easy switch to make. And that's why we believe the category is expanded, and we believe it will continue to expand, and that's the reason we're putting the second furnace there.
But it has nothing to do with the other categories which are might be facing challenges in the supply constrained world right now?
Yeah, I think even opalware is facing supply chain issues, frankly. Meaning to say that if we had more product, we could definitely sell it. So yes, I think virtually all products are facing supply chain. So that's not exclusive, let's say, to melamine or bone china. That's across the range.
Sure.
Meaning to say, I don't see this as a one-off because the supply chain suddenly opal has gone up, and then again next quarter it'll be down to 500 crores. I don't see that as the correct way to look at it.
The second question on the distribution strength and retail reach in opalware category. If you can please highlight how we are growing, where do we stand at this point, and how do we see next 2 years?
Yeah. So as far as distribution is concerned, we have a situation of about 15,000 retail outlets that we are selling through, and that we map our retailers with different product categories also. If I remember, almost 2/3 of them are using our Opal, or selling our Opal product, and that's something that keeps changing, month on month. But our focus, of course, is to keep growing the retail outlets.
And contribution from LFS, like the modern retail, modern trade, basically for us. And do we have any outstanding with the Future Group?
No, we had outstandings of Future Group, but we had insurance cover on the same. And I think largely, rather the insurance has paid us out of the Future Group. There may be a few immaterial amount we have to write off, like a few lakhs maybe. Not material at all to the overall size of outstanding, because our risk assessment team was quite proactive in taking insurance cover for them, and that helped us substantially. But coming to the breakup of I'm sorry, I can't share that data with you. That's in my view, competitive. It's important information from a competition point of view, so we don't like to share that.
Sure. And last question on the borosilicate glass category. How big is the market size, and how large is the unorganized segment? Because our competitor is also entering into this segment, so I'm assuming the market size is huge. And from our presentation, does it include the Hydra range, storage, tumblers, and glass microwave? Do you have to sum it up to get the category size?
No, so borosilicate glass, the way to look at it is, of course, microwave is a part of it, but storage, and now the storage which so storage is in various forms, right? It comes in plastic, in steel, and in glass. And glass also, there's soda lime glass and there's borosilicate glass. So the numbers we have mentioned are organized in kind of glass. Okay. So the way we look at it, and as I said, we are looking to substitute steel and plastic for storage by glass. Okay. And we believe there's a trend there. So the market would be several times. The potential addressable market would be, in my view, at least 10 times the microwaves plus storage put together. If we factor things like plastic and steel, which I believe, basis our understanding of the customer, we have a real, reasonable shot at addressing the larger market. And therefore, we are putting up this capacity. And therefore, I guess, we're putting basically our money where our mouth is, in terms of our thoughts.
Sure. But the market which we have put in our presentation is basically X of the steel and the plastic. Is it correct?
That's right. Yeah. So it's X steel, X plastic, and X unorganized.
Got it. So roughly that would be around anywhere from 1,000 to 1,200 crore at this point of the time.
Yeah, probably, yeah, at least.
Mr. Parekh, I'm sorry, may we request you to...
Yeah, sure. Thanks a lot and best wishes.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Mohit Jangar from Investing Hut. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. First of all, congrats for a great set of numbers. I have only one question about Klasspack. So, what is the approval process in Klasspack? So, if we obtain the certificate or any approval from FDA, then we can supply to our client, or we have to obtain some approvals from the client itself. So, I want to just know what is the approval process for Klasspack in order to supply the vials or ampoules.
So there's both. First, you have to get ISO certification, and of course, this differs from client to client, but is required to have ISO, including GMP, which is ISO 15378 certification. Then for exports, you also sometimes need to have a DMF, or Drug Master File, which is required for US or Canada or for China to export to. So they're broad. These are broader level certifications that are required, which we have. And then over and above that, after you have, that's that's like a, that's just table stakes. Once you have those certifications, then each customer will also have to certify you or will certify you, and that process can take anywhere from 6 months to 3 years, depending on the scrutiny that they want to undergo. So it's a painful business to get certified by end customers. But once you're certified, then it becomes relatively easier to expand your portfolio within each of these customers.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Resha Mehta from GreenEdge Wealth Services. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the opportunity. My questions were basically on the export opportunity. So if you could talk a little bit more about, the export opportunity both for the lab glassware division as well as the opalware segment. And, in terms of where are we in terms of, gaining some traction in exports for both these segments, a little bit on the competitive landscape, the entry barriers, key players, key countries, etc.
Yeah, so I can tell you broadly that we, of our scientific products division, which includes lab glassware, instrumentation, and pharma packaging, roughly 10% of our sales, or slightly more than 10%, will be export. Okay, and this is across the board. We are selling to, it's a well diversified mix of countries that we sell to. In terms of competition, I would say the largest exporter in this range from India will be Kesha, Short Kesha, because they I think would have more than 200 odd crores of exports, if I'm not mistaken. But you can, I'm sure, do your homework and figure out the numbers. And there are other players from Ambala also that export these products. So there's a big opportunity in this space to grow exports. Because, like I said, in India, the cost of manufacturing these products, because of the labor arbitrage that is there, is quite high. And that's why we feel quite strong. Our exports have grown manifold over the last 3-4 years, and although on a low base, and we expect that to continue. And the best part is that the margins for exports are more or less similar compared to domestic margins in this business. So there's no downside, let's say, to exporting.
Right, and here would China be a key competitor?
For markets which are certified, the previous gentleman asked about certified, sales. So there, no, China is not a big competitor in general. So I would say it's very low competitive intensity from China in the markets which you really want to be in.
Okay, fair. And how about opalware?
For opalware, the situation is a bit different. The markets, the markets such as Europe and the US, they already have local production in those markets, okay? And those producers are quite strong and have strong brands. So there you have to sell the product more as a commoditized product. And therefore, while the volumes could be interesting, the sale pricing is not attractive, frankly. It's like I said, as a filler. It's used as a filler to fill your capacity. You get some, if you look at the incremental profitability, it's okay to do it, but you would not set up production for exports. That would not be the main goal.
Understood. And how big would the margin differential be? Now, for instance, let's say in your opalware, you would be doing around 30% EBITDA margins, if I'm correct. So in exports, what would be the margin differential?
I'm sorry, I have to come back to you on that. I mean, in general, we don't share the margin, but it would be substantial. It would be a substantial difference. It's not like few percentage points. It would be in double-digit percentage points.
Okay, so for these reasons, obviously, we would not be focusing on exports for opalware, right?
Yeah, I mean, we may have to tactically sell more to meet our short-term requirements or of capacity fulfilling, but long-term, our focus will be domestic.
Understood. And also, if you could comment on the universe of, retailers for opalware.
Universe meaning the numbers?
Yeah, the numbers. So we are at around 10,000 outlets, right, for opalware. That's what you mentioned.
15. Yeah, look, these are rough numbers because, it's hard to say. Some outlets only sell during the festive season, the opal, okay? and then they don't sell it. So it's hard to really put a number, but if I was to say 15 to 20,000 outlets could be the universe which are selling opalware at all as a category. I'm talking about domestic. And frankly, with online sales, it's almost you have an infinite opportunity, right, to reach every customer is an end customer for you. So yeah.
Right. All right, that's it from my side. Thanks and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the last question. I would now like to hand the conference over to the management of Borosil Limited for closing comments. Over to you, sir.
So thanks everyone for participating in the call. I really appreciate it. Also questions I hope I could answer as asked. And as the management team, I'm very proud of our team for continuously delivering numbers which are improving on a quarter and a year-on-year basis. So my team, they're the guys who actually do all the work. So really, I would like to put on record my appreciation for all of the members of our team across various departments. And I believe that we are well set up for a long-term growth story here in Borosil, and we feel very passionate about that. And I do hope that we can deliver on the expectations that all of you have. So thank you, and have a, I would say, good quarter ahead.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Edelweiss Wealth Management, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect.